Hi, Jeffrey. This is Raimondo. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. I apologize. It was a long night over here.
I can imagine we are really struggling to know more about the last results, but we think that it's not easy to find the final solution. We started this morning guessing whether the votes that will come by post will be really what will decide the final. What is your opinion about it? What is your forecast, if you can give a forecast, or please tell us what is your feeling at least?
Well, my feeling is, of course, very high uncertainty because it's not finished. But Trump certainly completely outperformed all of the opinion surveys. No matter what happens, again, we saw Trump receive several percent more throughout large parts of the country than the opinion polls. The Democrats did not take the Senate. It's been, from my point of view, a horrible election. But if Trump wins, almost unimaginably bad for the United States and very difficult for the world. But I think I know no more than what I'm reading on the wires than you see. There's still a chance for Biden, definitely, but it's going to be a tiny margin, if so. But politically, this country is so divided so deeply. I find it very hard to understand my country, and I find it very depressing, extremely depressing.
We can understand you have put your names, your science, and your articles during the last 2 or 3 years, explicitly saying that USA needs a U-turn in terms of climate policy, in terms of green economy, in terms of social economy, and it seems obvious. I mean, for us Europeans, but sometimes it's not easy to understand the decisions and the feeling about the population that has maybe fears or where communication is very important. What can I ask you something? Our perception is that climate and green economy were not enough part of the debate in the last campaign and in the last weeks. At least we have not seen the climate issues being part of the priority in the agenda of both candidates. Is it a good perception?
There was very little substance in this debate, and on the one point that was mostly discussed, the pandemic, where Trump's irresponsibility has left 230,000 people dead, it didn't matter. But we did not discuss healthcare, social policy, climate, and probably Biden's one statement in the third debate that the U.S. would transition from oil probably cost him votes in a number of states, and probably in Pennsylvania, which is a key swing state right now in these last hours. So there's no movement in this country that has strong resonance. Most Americans say that climate change is real and serious, but it doesn't change the vote. This is what's incredible. My country does not have a substantive agenda right now, other than really, I would say, white working class rage, which Trump expresses, but the country is not prepared to deal with any complex issue, whether of course, whether it's the pandemic or an issue like the energy system or healthcare. We can't solve any problems in this country. And this has been like this for years. But every 4 years, I have hoped for the last quarter century that this country would awake. But again, maybe Biden will win by a sliver of a vote, and I'll feel much better in a day. But I'm very, very depressed that at best we're divided down the middle, and at worst we have a person who is absolutely the most vile human being ever to be president, reelected after all his vileness and despite a pandemic. So it's really very shocking and disturbing. Look, all of our countries have had horrible leaders at times, but it's especially depressing when the vileness has been on display for many years, and then the people vote the same way, dividing the country down the middle. It's truly hard to understand. Even though I study it every day, I can't say that I emotionally understand it.
We understand your sadness, and we understand, but we would like to give some hope. Thinking about the unilateralism, we saw that in spite of different climate policies, the American states, the cities, the communities, the companies, and some of the industries had a very important turn towards decarbonization. And it's incredible to see that today is officially the day where USA will go away from the Paris Agreement.
Exactly.
This is something that makes the whole picture dramatic. But at the same time, when we see California, when we see a lot of green industries, we see that maybe we should not depend for climate issues on having only big agreements at national level or multinational level. There can be unilateral initiatives that can give good results. What is your feeling about this?
I'm somewhat pessimistic about that, and the reason is that the big results we need in the world are decisive changes in China, India, Russia, Saudi Arabia, of course, the US. And even if we have considerable action just by the fact that renewable energy is clean and cheap, even if we have that happening, which it is happening in the United States, and even if we have companies like Tesla, which are very good companies producing good products, we won't get the kind of major global change unless we have high-level global commitment. And the last few weeks have been very good for this. The European Green Deal, China's commitment to reach net zero by 2060, Japan and Korea each making a commitment to net zero by 2050 have been very important. But if the United States government, if Trump is reelected, so everything depends on this, but if Trump is reelected and the US continues to be a hostile force, that will also spur hostility, certainly in Saudi Arabia, in Russia. It will slow any action in Canada and Australia. It will definitely make diplomacy harder with India, which is more interested in its conflict with China than it is with its energy policy. A lot will depend on Europe. Just suppose, I hate to do it, but suppose that Trump is still in office, will Europe hold together on the European Green Deal? Because even within Europe, Poland, Hungary, other Central European countries, even though they have little coal, they resist this agenda, the Czech Republic. And so even Europe would be slowed down diplomatically. If Europe were strong, united, I think the United States could be marginalized, which is what it deserves to be, because this is a dangerous country under Trump, really a dangerous country. But the truth is Europe itself is divided, and Trump has his supporters in Europe. and he will play on them, and he will try to divide and weaken Europe, or try to bring Europe into a Cold War with China, because that is a deliberate U.S. attempt. So I'm sorry to say it, I do not believe if Trump is president that the world is safe. We don't know. Maybe I tell you, in 12 hours, I may feel much better when the rest of the ballots are counted. But if Trump is president, the world is not safe.
So it will take 12 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the state, but we'll know a lot more in the next 12 hours. Basically, Michigan and Pennsylvania remain. Michigan is my home state. It's extremely shocking to me to see this behavior. And Pennsylvania, it's probably the divided state, and probably Biden's message to move away from oil played a role in making that vote so close. But in general, this is a race vote more than anything. I think we'll see the analysis in the future.
Okay, I remember last year in the same conference of the Stati Generali della Green, you told us something very inspiring. You told us that Europe and China could take a leadership on green economy, and as you said, Europe has done it with the Green Deal, and Italy wants to be a locomotive in this. We are working for that, and we are pushing the Italian government, who is giving good signs. And today in our conference, we have seen the commitment of China of 2060 carbon neutrality. I think you've taken this very positively, with a very good appreciation. What about the 2030 target of China of starting reducing the emissions only in 2030, especially the coal emission? Do you think is it enough, or shall we push as Europeans for doing it before? In somehow, push means agree, talk to them, try to establish connections and industrial links. What do you think about this 2030 peak?
Yeah. What has happened is very much a result of EU-China diplomacy. Even China's commitment to net zero in 2060, I believe, was prompted by Europe, and specifically by the European-China dialogue, where the European leaders pressed China to come up with this, and President Xi did come up with it. So it is a demonstration of European leadership. I've been saying all along that 2060 is an important commitment, but China should do it faster and can do it faster. Of course, again, a lot depends on the next 24 hours in the United States, or the next 12 hours. But Europe should now work with China, and Italy could be a big positive force to say, let's work together on our mutual commitments to see how we can accelerate, because next year is the start of China's 5-year plan, the 14th plan. So a tremendous amount is at stake in the next few months, so that the 14th plan is as green as possible. China should not wait. It makes no sense to continue to build coal-fired power plants. Many Chinese officials know better. It's like the lobby that we all face in the US, Europe, and China. It's about short-term power politics, not about the energy system or the climate. So I think that all of this should be continued to push at a very high level. If the US stays under Trump, Europe will be absolutely the hope for the world in getting climate safety. Without Europe coherent and strong, there won't be a chance in the world. It will be a major effort, but Europe will be the decisive force, because Europe is the part of the world that knows best, cares the most, has the most ambitious plans, and needs to convince the rest of the world to act. And I would take seriously China's commitment as a very positive thing, but I would say it's good, but don't build coal plants now. Stop. It makes no sense. This is absolutely the most basic point. The second point I would say, if I were in Europe's situation, is let's work together on the Belt and Road Initiative. But it must be a green, clean Belt and Road Initiative. If I were in European shoes, and if Trump is reelected, I would absolutely work towards strong European-Chinese diplomacy, because the United States will be the most dangerous country in the world if it's Trump, not the great NATO ally to create a bloc against China. That's absurd. It will be a danger to ourselves in this country and to the world, because it is against all sensible things under Trump. And so we need to watch in the next day or so, but Europe's going to have a major responsibility in this. On the specific question you asked, it does not make sense for China to wait until 2030. That's just soft politics because of domestic lobbying in China. China should stop the coal plants. It should stop coal on the Belt and Road Initiative. And Europe has one major carrot to offer, which is strong cooperation on the Belt and Road Initiative in return for a real breakthrough that stops coal now and puts the target to 2050 and builds it into the 14th plan, because that's possible, and that's really what should be done.
Thanks very much, Jeff. We are really honored that you have been here with us so early in the morning and not in this very difficult day and night. I must imagine that you have not slept. So
it's been a very, very long night. So I'm going to. Great.
Yes, please go ahead.
No. Let's hope for the best. I hope that it's not just my exhaustion and my despair that is overdoing it. But just to say thank you very much. Italy can play an extremely important role. It's playing a very important role within Europe, and Europe in any event is decisive for the world right now. The US is too divided and too nasty and too unprincipled to be a trusted partner right now. So we really need Europe.
You know, the final word is never said. So let's see. Thanks very much, Jeff.
Very good. Thanks.